Hayden Panettiere. The episodes of A Life in Spotlight, a Career and Legacy retrospective. Hayden Panettiere was 36 years old when she died. Found unresponsive in a South Carolina apartment on August 16, 2026, she was rushed to emergency care but could not be saved. Her death sent shockwaves through an industry that had known her since she was 11 months old, a child so young she couldn't even hold a Playskool toy train in a commercial, but could hold the attention of Hollywood. In the weeks before her death, Panettiere had been talking about starting over, about feeling lighter, about shaking off years of darkness and negativity. 3 months before she died, she published a memoir called This Is Me, a reckoning, a 500-page accounting of a life lived in the spotlight, under scrutiny, in pain, and often very much alone. This is what happened to Hayden Panettiere, and it is, by design, a story about more than just one woman. Episode 1, The Child Star Trap, 1990–2005. The price of early fame. Hayden Panettiere's life began under lights. At 11 months old, she appeared in a Playskool commercial, the first of what would become a childhood spent performing for cameras rather than playing with toys. By age 7, she had landed a recurring role on the daytime soap opera Guiding Light, one of the longest-running television dramas in American history. She played Lizzie Spaulding, a character who would suffer kidnappings, cause deaths, and survive leukemia, all before Panettiere's brain had developed enough to process why she was pretending these catastrophes were happening to her. Years later, in her memoir, Panettiere would write about the psychological toll of this childhood. Subconsciously, I began to associate catastrophe with adoration. People loved me when make-believe bad things happened to me. This was not metaphorical damage. This was neurological. In 2026, Panettiere would explain to the world how her brain, her developing amygdala, hippocampus, hypothalamus, and prefrontal cortex, had been trained to treat fictional trauma as real. Every time she willed herself to cry on set by imagining horrific things, her body flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, she sent herself into artificial fight-or-flight mode, again and again, as a child. Very quickly, that level of disaster preparation will wear a person down, she wrote. But the industry had a solution for that too. At age 15, someone on her team, a manager, a producer, someone with power over her career, began offering her happy pills before red carpets. To make me peppy during interviews, she would later say. I had no idea what door that would open for me when it came to my addiction. By the time Panettiere turned 17, she had spent a decade learning to perform pain for money. She had learned that love and catastrophe were the same thing, and she had already been introduced to the chemical ways to manage the person that childhood had made her. When she auditioned for Heroes in 2006, she was not entering the entertainment industry. She was already broken by it. Fame, motherhood, and the illusion of control. In 2006, Hayden Panettiere booked the role of Claire Bennett on NBC's Heroes, a groundbreaking superhero drama that would define the late 2000s. Her character was an invincible cheerleader wrapped in a narrative tagline, "Save the cheerleader, save the world." She was the beating heart of the show. Critics praised her, audiences loved her, and the tabloids consumed her. For the first time, the machinery of Hollywood scrutiny shifted its focus from her talent to her body, her looks, her love life, her dating choices. The intensity of the gaze, what would come to feel like relentless, had never been trained on her quite this way before. By 2012, Panettiere joined the cast of Nashville, a soapy primetime drama where she played Juliette Barnes, an emerging country singer struggling with alcoholism and postpartum depression. The irony, which Panettiere would later acknowledge, is that she was performing fictional versions of the very real crises that were beginning to define her own life. In December 2014, she gave birth to her daughter Kaya with boxer Vladimir Klitschko. Shortly after, Panettiere slipped into postpartum depression. Her substance abuse issues, dormant since her late teens, or so she had believed, resurfaced with a vengeance. She describes feeling at the time like, "There is something seriously wrong with me." But there wasn't anything wrong with her. There was something profoundly wrong with a system that had taught her since infancy that pain was currency, that catastrophe was lovable, that the right chemical could make any feeling manageable. By 2018, struggling with addiction and the weight of motherhood under scrutiny, Panettiere made a decision that would haunt and define her for the rest of her life. She sent her daughter to live with Klitschko in Ukraine. "It was the hardest thing I ever had to do," she would say, "but I wanted to be a good mom to her, and sometimes that means letting them go." What she didn't say, what took 8 more years and a full memoir to articulate, is that she was trying to be a good mom by stepping out of the way of her own damage. She was trying to break a cycle that Hollywood had started when she was 11 months old. Episode 3, Reckoning, 2019-2026, the memoir, The Violence, the Brother, the End. In May 2019, a man named Brian Hickerson was arrested in California and charged with felony domestic violence. The woman he had allegedly hurt was Hayden Panettiere. She was in a relationship with him. She was also still struggling with addiction. Over the next 2 years, the violence escalated. There were at least 3 arrests. On Valentine's Day 2020, while vacationing in Wyoming, Hickerson hit Panettiere badly enough to send her into hiding for weeks. "You never forget the first time someone slaps you," she would write in her memoir. "Nor do you forget the last." In 2021, Hickerson pleaded guilty and was convicted of 2 felony counts. He received 4 years of formal probation, but Panettiere was left with the aftermath and the silence. She had been famous since before she could walk. She had been watched her entire life. And yet the domestic violence happened in relative obscurity. People knew about heroes. People knew she was struggling. But they did not know until she told them that she had been hit, that she had been hurt by someone she loved, that she had been trapped in a cycle that felt, to her, like an extension of everything Hollywood had already taught her about pain and performance. In February 2023, another catastrophe. Her brother, Jansen Panettiere, a voice actor, died suddenly at age 28 from an enlarged heart with aortic valve complications. "There was nothing in my life that feels like losing my other half," she told podcaster Jay Shetty in a 2026 interview. But in the same interview, she also said something else. She said she felt like she had shaken off all of this darkness and this negativity. She said, "I feel like I have a lot more life to live." 3 months before her death on May 19, 2026, Panettiere published This Is Me. A reckoning? The book was not a soft memoir. It was a reckoning with her childhood, with the industry, with the men who had hurt her, with the chemicals that had saved and destroyed her, and with herself. In the memoir, she wrote about being treated like a call girl as a teenager in Hollywood. She wrote about the neurological damage of performing trauma as a child. She wrote about postpartum depression and addiction and domestic violence. She wrote about sending her daughter away. She wrote about her fractured relationship with her mother, who had managed her career and blurred the lines between family and business. "There is not a relationship between her and I, sadly," she told Jay Shetty. But she also wrote about recovery, about therapy, about the hard, unglamorous work of understanding how a system had broken her and choosing anyway to keep living. On August 16, 2026, Panettiere was found unresponsive in a Greenville, South Carolina apartment complex. Emergency personnel attempted to resuscitate her. She was pronounced dead at 2:32 p.m. An autopsy revealed no signs of trauma. The official cause of death remains under investigation pending toxicology results. What is known, she was 36 years old. She was far from home, and she was finally at rest. Episode 4, the system that made her why her death matters beyond her. When Hayden Panettiere died, she was not alone in dying young. In 2025, actress Michelle Trachtenberg, who had played Panettiere's rival-turned-friend in the 2005 film Ice Princess, died at age 39 from complications of diabetes mellitus. In June 2026, actress Davy Chase died at age 35 from AIDS, with chronic polysubstance use listed as a contributing condition. 3 women, 3 former child stars, all dead before age 40. Anna Paquin, who won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress at age 11 for The Piano, posted on Instagram after Panettiere's death. "It's not a coincidence that so many former, specifically prosexualized female child stars have profoundly sad lives and untimely ends. We were not as protected by the systems that look great on paper as we are supposed to be." Melissa Gilbert, who starred as Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie starting at age 10, published an essay titled Enough is Enough on August 22, 2026. In it, she wrote about her own experience as a child actor, nearly working to death, performing while fevered and injured and broken because children in Hollywood are trained never to say no. "The entertainment industry uses, abuses, exploits, and then throws away its youngest," Gilbert wrote. "And it really seems like no one cares enough to enact real change." Panettiere's memoir had documented something else: the way that the entertainment industry in the age of smartphones had intensified the exploitation she had experienced. Now everyone is a paparazzi. So, Gilbert noted, what was once kept private is now exploited and sold. Panettiere had been monitored, photographed, and dissected since she was an infant. By the time she was a teenager, there was no privacy, no escape, no way to have a bad day without it becoming content, becoming narrative, becoming part of the permanent record of her pain. The memoir she published in May 2026 was an act of reclamation. She was taking back her story. She was naming the systems that had failed her. She was, in a sense, trying to protect the next generation by refusing to stay silent about how badly the previous generation had been treated. But 3 months later, she was dead, and the industry's response, as it always had been, would follow a predictable pattern: shock, mourning, promises of change, and then, eventually, forgetting, until the next death. And then the same promises again. Epilogue. What she left behind. Hayden Panettiere left behind a daughter, now 11 years old, the same age Panettiere was when she won her first Oscar nomination. She left behind a memoir that will outlive her, a document of survival and reckoning that cannot be unread. She left behind a body of work from Guiding Light to Heroes to Nashville that will continue to be watched, studied, and loved by people who saw in her character's invincibility a reflection of their own survival. And she left behind a question that the industry has not yet answered and may never answer. How many more women have to die before we stop sending children into that machine? Anna Paquin ended her Instagram post with an invitation. You aren't alone, let's have each other's back. It might make public disclosure less terrifying. Panettiere's memoir was her version of that reaching out, an extended hand to every other person who had been loved by the world too early and too much, and who had paid the price for it in ways that Hollywood had trained them not to speak about. She spoke about it anyway, and then she was gone.